Why would a doctor who went to MIT, a neurosurgeon, quit medicine altogether? This is that story. There's a guy he's got a channel called Gooby and Dooby, and I'll put a link down in the description for his video. It's gone viral, and I'm going to summarize it in a very short period of time for you and give you my thoughts as to why so many doctors are quitting medicine. Because I don't know if it's the fact that it's just being exposed on YouTube, but for a doctor to quit, that's a big deal. Anyway, his video got, as of right now, 11 million views. And it's a little bit difficult to watch only because he's outside and there's flies flying around his face and in his ears, and he had to put up a hoodie. It's hard to watch, but his story is interesting, but it's not super unique. So the story is this, that he was a neurosurgeon, and he was extremely frustrated at his job because he was finding that he really wasn't helping people as much as he had hoped. No matter how much he perfected his surgical skills, he could do the perfect surgery, and still there were many patients that did not benefit from surgery. That's got to be frustrating. That's got to be very frustrating. And by the end of the video, he concluded that the main reason why people get healthy is because of lifestyle choices. And he named a few things that are probably going to upset some people, such as he mentioned that he noticed when he did surgery, the patients that did get better were usually people that ate healthy, and he mentioned a plant-based diet. Now, of course, that's going to upset many people who don't think a plant-based diet is healthy, but that's just his observation. It's an interesting observation. He found that people that had friends, that had good social networks, that got good sleep, that exercised on a regular basis, were patients that were healthy. And when he did do surgery on them, they generally had better outcomes. But he mentioned how frustrated he was that he was making tons of money, but he just wasn't happy because he felt a deep saddening with his profession of medicine. And of course, he discussed how hospitals and surgical centers don't make money unless you do surgery, and that there were a lot of unnecessary surgeries going on. Surgeries where people aren't necessarily going to get better, but the surgery is done anyway. And this is a guy who he couldn't live with himself, and he had a hard ethical, emotional time with it. And he was becoming unhealthy as well. So anyway, as the story goes, he quit medicine. He is unemployed, kind of. And I'll get to that in just a moment. He's not really unemployed. He's just temporarily not doing his job as a neurosurgeon. And I'll go over this in detail in just a moment. But my take on this has been, there's been a lot of doctors that have been quitting medicine. You know, you look at all the people that you follow, and I have a thing on my YouTube channel that tells me what my viewers are also watching. And I know that you're watching Dr. Baker, you're watching Dr. Berg, you're watching Ken Berry, you're watching Motivational Doc, you're watching all these doctors, and none of them practice medicine. None of them practice chiropractic. They're all 100% of the time YouTube doctors. And what are they doing? They're trying to empower you to become a healthier person by changing lifestyle. And when I graduated almost 30 years ago, medical doctors never talked about this. It was almost taboo. It was questioned whether they even knew anything about these things because there was no training in the schools. Most doctors didn't have a single class in nutrition, which is fascinating. When you think about that, that's a little scary that you've got a profession that is supposed to get rid of disease and get us healthy, and that's not necessarily true. Their job is to not get us healthy. Their job is to get rid of disease. That they don't have a single class in nutrition. Well, doctors are waking up, and this MIT trained neurosurgeon just got called Gooby, Dr. Gooby, or Doobie. I don't know, actually. The reason his channel is named Gooby and Doobie, I think, is because I think his dog is named the other one. I'm going to call him Dr. Gooby because I don't have my phone with me. I'm just reacting to this. But, you know, it's about time medicine started realizing that lifestyle choices make a difference. How long was it supposed to take? I mean, my God, man. They're just discovering this? Come on. So there's a lot of problems with quitting medicine. And he mentions this, how hard it was, because you can tell that the guy, you know, he's not a stupid guy. He's trained, he said, for 20 years, and he looks 30-something years old. So you can tell that he was groomed from the moment he was born, probably, but his family probably wanted him to be a doctor. I can't even imagine quitting the profession as a neurosurgeon and then having to tell your parents, who probably sacrificed everything to get you into the best schools that helped you with your homework as a youngster, that got you the good grades necessary to get into medical school, and then you probably worked your tail off in medical school. You did your internship, and then you did your residency and things like this. He probably spent the great majority of his life focused on becoming this prestigious doctor. And that's really what it's about. Most people don't try to become, you know, a lineman of the NFL for the prestige. They become a quarterback for the prestige. People become doctors not always because of altruistic reasons. Many people become doctors because of the money. Many people become doctors because of the status. And I'm not saying Dr. Doobie did this for that reason. He could have his own reasons. But it is a prestigious profession, and you are held at a high level. You are put on a pedestal as a doctor, and there's a lot of money involved in prescribing medications and doing surgeries. There should be. There absolutely should be. Why would you not want someone who cuts you open, and especially cuts you open near your spinal cord, to not get paid well? You know, so people are always blaming doctors about how much money they make, but there is some justification for it. They sacrifice a lot, go to school a lot. I mean, my God, I entered college. When I entered college, I was just at the edge of 17. I was just turning 18. So I entered college at the age of 17. By the time I finished school and started working, I was 27 and a half. So I spent literally 9.5 years in school, not earning an income, trying to become a doctor, and the payoff was supposed to be good because no one goes to school for 9.5 years to get paid minimum wage. But healthcare, as Dr. Doobie described it, was broken. he didn't see it as a workable system, and he was emotionally tormented. Duh. That's of course that's going to happen, especially when you enter a profession where statistically the success rate of surgeries are generally poor, that you are seeing people at the end stage of all conditions, and when these patients are not healthy, you're trying to take an unhealthy person with a very bad disease and trying to fix them. And I hate that word, fix them, because you're not fixing them. You're trying to help them. There's a difference. And I feel as though when you put a doctor on a pedestal and put your problem on their shoulders and make it their problem now that they are to fix, it's very, very stressful. And that's what Dr. Dubey was going through. And Dr. Dubey is not going to watch this video unless you send it to him. You can always copy and post it on his comment section if you want, but I don't think he's going to care what I think. But I have some suggestions, and these are suggestions if you're a doctor that's burned out, and a lot of them are burned out and thinking of quitting. I have some suggestions that I've learned in being in practice in over 28 years. And so these are some of the things. And the first thing was, in Dr. Dubey's video, he mentioned this, that one of his mentors told him the purpose of his profession is to alleviate suffering for people. Number one, that is the goal. That is the reason, or the altruistic reason, why we all become doctors, is to alleviate suffering. It's not to eliminate suffering. It's to alleviate suffering. And this is important because it is a process. And what I have found personally is when a patient comes in, and I tell them this, my goal is to get improvement. We may not be able to get 100% improvement. You're not a car. We may not be able to fix you, but we may be able to improve you. Now, how much improvement is going to be dependent on a lot of factors, including the overall health of you, the patient. The better you can eat, the better human resources you have, meaning family, friends, your outlook, your exercise, your general overall lifestyle, your diet, the better we can make those things, the better the chiropractic adjustment is going to work. Fact. Having said that, not everybody is willing to contribute their end of the bargain. And I think one of the problems that Dr. Dubey had was he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, as it was purely up to him to alleviate human suffering. When your job is to not alleviate everyone's suffering, your job is to help alleviate or remove as best you can their suffering with the skills that you have. Now, the only skill he had was with the scalpel. That's a limited skill set. As great of a surgeon as he may have been, if you only use a scalpel, then everyone is going to get surgery. That's why what he found was the lifestyle choices that people make would have a greater impact on their overall health than a scalpel. Fascinating. But my thoughts, if I was counseling a doctor who was new in practice, who was having these issues with being frustrated that he can't fix everyone with a knife, is to say that it's okay. You're human. You're only a human trying to help another human alleviate some suffering. It's not your job to pretend that you're a god, that you can somehow fix or eliminate all suffering. And because we put doctors on pedestals, it's very easy to knock them down. But they feel the weight of the world on their shoulders. And it's not healthy for the doctor. It leads to burnout, and it leads to some doctors entirely quitting practice altogether. Number 2 is to realize that humans are not perfect. Not everyone went to MIT and is as smart as you. Some people make bad choices. And some people don't even know these are bad choices. Humans do what humans do. And you have to account for that. This has been a lesson for me as well, in that I can give the best adjustment, the best advice, teach people all the lifestyle choices that they need to make, and people still will leave the office, go have a cigarette and a donut, and not exercise or even follow the advice I told them. One of the frustrating things about being a doctor is you have to be okay with that. You can only be an influence in a person's life, but you can't handhold them. You can't walk them through life. It's not your job. And that leads to burnout when you think it is your job. Even the personal trainer is only with the patient or the client for an hour. They can't follow them around and make them eat certain foods. That's the reality. Humans are humans, and humans are going to make mistakes, and humans are going to do dumb things, and humans are going to say dumb things. Not all of them do it, but there's a percentage, and that percentage does walk through our office, and you have to be okay with that. So when a doctor gets burned out and frustrated that he's not getting 100% good results because, he's done the perfect surgery, it's going to lead to an emotional turmoil. There's an old joke of a doctor going to the waiting room after doing surgery on a patient, and the family says, is my husband okay after the surgery? And the surgeon says, oh, the surgery went extremely well. I did a perfect surgery. I did the perfect technique, and the surgery was the team that did the surgery. Everybody worked together. The surgery turned out perfect, but your husband died. And that's an old joke in medicine, because no matter how perfect your surgery is, some patients don't make it through the surgery. And as much as we say it's a joke, it's really not a joke, because these things do happen. Is the health of the person is going to be a determining factor in how successful that perfect surgery is. I just thought of something, and I remembered this from, it's got to be 20 years ago. Here's the story. I had a patient. He was an extremely unhealthy patient, and I'll tell you what happened. He had a herniated disc and some spinal stenosis. He was not getting better with conservative care, so I referred him to a neurosurgeon. This guy was the best in our state. He was 3 towns above us, and he was extremely well known as being the most skilled surgeon in the county as well as the state. He ended up doing the surgery, standard disc operation, little slice and dice and clean it up, roto-rooter, the holes where the nerves go through. Patient gets out of surgery and has a seizure. And they thought something was seriously wrong. They took him back into surgery, reopened him up, tried to find the mistake, that type of thing. The mistake was they didn't do a blood test looking for illegal drugs the moment before the surgery. The pre-op was a couple days before the surgery. The guy was smoking crack cocaine prior to the surgery, and that drug interacted with the anesthesia, ended up having some serious complications. The neurosurgeon could have not known this 2 minutes before the surgery. But imagine how scary that must have been. That he literally had surgeries lined up every hour on the hour for the entire day, and the first person of the day ends up having a seizure right after, and they have to go in and open them up, and then the other patients who were lined up for the surgery for their time were postponed, rescheduled, whatever. These things happen. And as a surgeon, you have to be okay with the fact of there's going to be some unknowns. And it's unfortunate. You're here, and this I wrote down, this would be number 3. The way I look at my practice is I'm here to help people. I'm not here to control people. I'm only here with them for maybe a half an hour at a time. That's not enough to control their entire day. I don't control their emotions. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a personal trainer. I'm not their spouse. I'm not their auto mechanic. I can't fix everything. I can influence them. I can try to help them. But I can only have so much influence, and I have to be okay with that. And I think Dr. Dubey has had a hard time being okay with that. That he only has an influence, he only has a depth of influence as far as his scalpel can go. And that's got to be frustrating. But if that's the profession you choose, that's got to be the profession you do. All right, number 4. If you really want to be in a health profession, be a doctor of chiropractic. I am so thankful that I chose the profession that I chose. You know, we call it healthcare, but it's what we have in our country is not healthcare. It's disease management care. If you want to go into a disease profession, then become a medical doctor. If you want to prescribe medicine, become a medical doctor. I mean, it's in the name, medical. MD stands for medical doctor. If you want to give medicine, be a medical doctor. You'll be happy. But if you're trying to change people's lifestyle by being a medical doctor, it literally is like trying to train for football and become a cyclist in the Tour de France. It doesn't work. You're in the wrong profession if you want to get people healthy. If you want a health profession, become a doctor of chiropractic. If you want to be in a disease profession, become a medical doctor. They're 2 different professions. And not that one is better than the other, but based on personality, I am glad I chose to become a doctor of chiropractic. Because even as a young person, I was a health nut. I loved nutrition. I loved working out. I loved knowing how to perform better athletically at sports. My goal was to learn how the body works so that I can do treatment on it to make it work better. We know how the body functions mechanically and how it influences the nervous system. And we can use our hands to make changes in the body so that the body can function better and become healthy. That's a philosophy of healthcare. I don't know if medicine has a philosophy, but chiropractic, they say, is a philosophy, an art, and a science. The science is all the science stuff. The art is the skill. The art is like hitting a baseball. When a professional baseball player gets up to the plate, they're relaxed and they get paid a lot of money to knock it out of the park. Anybody can hold a baseball bat. Anybody can crack a spine. Your boyfriend can probably crack a spine by giving you a bear hug, but he doesn't know what he's doing and he has no influence on the nervous system, and he's going to cause more harm than good. But when a chiropractor does an adjustment to the nervous system and the joints and makes the body function better, we're raising the level of health. That's the profession to be in. This is the best job ever. And I'll tell you, for all the naysayers, they don't even know. Being a doctor of chiropractic degree has been around since 1895, not 1995, 1895. Our profession has been around for a long time. Now, that isn't to say that we don't have problems, because our profession does have some problems. But what's interesting about watching the Dr. Doobie, MIT trained neurosurgeon who quit video was a lot of the complaints that he had were similar complaints in almost all professions. But we have our shit too. We have insurance companies that just pay us less and less per year. We have overhead that goes up. The business side of it is not fun. It's not that great. The other thing is, as much as I just said it's the coolest profession ever, you have to realize that humans are humans. Not everybody wants to be healthy. Some people just want a drug. In fact, I'm going to venture to say the majority of people want drugs because they want an instant fix. They want their back pain gone now. They don't want to put 6 months of exercise into it. They don't want to come into the chiropractor and get adjusted. They don't want to change their diet to an anti-inflammatory diet to reduce the inflammatory component of not just their entire body, but their joints. So just as your primary care doctor has frustrations that when he gives an antibiotic and tells people, take the entire bottle, don't save it for next time, something like 85 to 90% of people do not finish their antibiotics. And why? Because as soon as they get symptom relief, they want to save the antibiotics for next time. And that's why so many people have a boatload of drugs that they had in the past they're saving for next time in their medicine cabinet. Same thing with chiropractic. Is we have patients that come in, I tell them to do exercises, I tell them how often they should be adjusted on their spine based on their individual problems, and they don't always follow through. And that's very frustrating because you just know, oh my God, if you just give me your body, I can make a change in it. And they won't do it. That's frustrating. But as years have gone by in my practice, I realized that I can't control everyone. I can try to influence them, but I can't control them. Now, number 5. This is an interesting one because a lot of people will say on YouTube that I'm just trying to be altruistic and I'm unemployed. So the MIT neurosurgeon who quit medicine, he's now unemployed. Well, that's not entirely true because if you're on YouTube, I can tell you an estimate, and I think I'm wrong, but I'm wrong on the low side. That video that he spent an hour making, there was no editing, by the way. So again, he just talked on the video just like I'm doing right now. 11 million views. I'm going to venture to guess that he made $60,000. That's doing quite well on YouTube. When you have a video that hits 11 million views, you're not unemployed. You're making quite a bit of money. And I would say that the reason why you see so many doctors quitting practice and starting a YouTube channel is for that very reason. I don't think if Dr. Doobie fixed the most important person on earth and solved their neurological condition in their lower back or neck and did a fusion or a discectomy or a microdiscectomy or whatever, that he would ever be paid $60,000 for 1 hour of work. This is why so many young people want to become influencers, because they know that you can make more money on YouTube than you could ever make in a real job, even a neurosurgeon. So now you can understand why you can't get a hold of Dr. Baker, you can't get a hold of Ken Berry, you can't get a hold of Eric Berg, you can't get a hold of the motivational doc, because there's just no point of being in practice. You earn too little money for too much risk. And you can make a video like I'm doing now and have an influence over people that are ready for the message, that are willing to contribute their end of the bargain. If you're willing to contribute your end of the bargain, I will give you this free information on how to lower your blood pressure, how to lower your cholesterol, how to get in shape, how to get muscle mass, how to improve your cardiovascular fitness. Things you could do yourself to improve your posture and alleviate pain. You get this stuff for free. You just have to do it. So the YouTube audience tends to be people willing to contribute their own efforts. And if you've gotten this far in this video, I'm going to assume that you're willing to put in the effort to improve your overall health. Well, guess what? In real practice, when you're practicing real medicine or real chiropractic, there's a percentage of people that are not willing to do that. It's the way it goes. So I'm not crying for Dr. Doobie at all. He's doing just fine. Don't you worry about him. That one video, I know for fact, for a 4-minute video that has 11 million views will net you about $60,000. His video was an hour. The longer the video, the more money you get paid. So I don't know how much he made, but he afforded his mortgage that month. Okay. He also, this is number 6, my thoughts. He pointed out what they don't want you to know. That he said this, that medicine is about making money, and sometimes well over the health of the people. And we've seen this in past years, that political agendas, big pharma, no one calls it little pharma. We all call it big pharma for a reason, because, and listen, don't shoot the messenger. I'm not the one saying this. He said it. He said that he was frustrated by how the pharmaceutical industries and politicians control healthcare. And he said it's wrong. Well, at what point during your your disease training did you figure this out? He figured it out after graduating? How can you not figure this out before? Because people are naive, and I'm sure that when you're studying in your training, you're just in a little loop. You're in a bubble of successful people, and the conspiracy theories are considered crazy until you're in real life. And then if you have half a brain, you'll see it. But he's pointing out things that are obvious to some people, that some of these procedures that are done in disease care are not always for the benefit of the patient. And that's what he pointed out. And he was so frustrated that he had to quit. So I wish him well on his YouTube journey. My last thought, and this is number 7, and this will summarize everything that I think will help you, is that, and he pointed this out in the video, his video, that it is entirely up to the patient. It is up to you to get healthy and no one else. You can use doctors as an assistant. They're just simply the gateway into procedures that may be done that may help you. They're the gateway into blood tests, urine tests. But not so much anymore, because the local Unilab now has a self-referral process. And this, I think, is genius. You can bypass your doctor and order your own blood tests. Now, how cool is that? You don't have to wait. You don't have to make an appointment. You don't have to have white coat syndrome. You could literally do all this yourself. You can buy your own blood pressure machine. You can buy your own oximeter. You can check your own oxygen levels. You can now get your own blood tests and urine tests. You can order what you want. There's a self-empowerment when you put the onus on the patient rather than the doctor. And as a doctor myself, now we can view ourselves not as this high status person who has to take responsibility for solving all the problems that the person has, but now we can view ourselves more as a servant, as an assistant, to try to help people figure out themselves through the woods, to try to get themselves healthy. And that is one of the best parts about being a doctor. But you need the mindset. And this isn't something I learned on my own. This is something I learned from my mentors. This is something I learned over the years, just years and years of having some of the same frustrations that Dr. Doobie had, but figuring out and learning how to adapt, improvise, and overcome so that I can help more people. Let me know what your thoughts are on this subject.